has reviewed the documents. Is there anything your client wishes to say?
No.
All right, the court is calling 2025 CR 0018000A and 2025 CR 0018002B, State versus Alex Avila. Can I have parties announce?
Megan Galloway for the state. Faith Castillo for defense, Your Honor.
And we have an interpreter. Again, if you could raise your hand for the record. Do you solemnly swear and affirm you will faithfully translate from English into Spanish and Spanish into English, so help you God?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Catalina Delgado, license number 2222.
And are you Alex Avila?
Yes.
And counsel, have you been able to communicate with your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we're here for a sentencing. Have both parties received the PSI and TAP evaluation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections to the PSI or TAP evaluation from either side?
No, Your Honor, just some clarification points on the PSI. So, on the previous, it says previous criminal history. We're coming together on all of the cases, so that's just to note there was no actual prior to these instances that were taking place.
All right. Are there any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, we have one, Marisol Morales, if we could call her to this.
All right, if you'll call your witness in.
Defense would like to call Marisol Morales.
All right, if you'll remember to keep your voice up so that the court reporter can hear. Yes. All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record.
Marisol Morales.
All right, you may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Morales. Can you state your occupation for the court today?
I am a licensed master social worker for the Public Defender's Office.
And I'm so sorry, if you could not turn towards her when you speak, it's just so the court reporter can hear. Thank you.
Ms. Morales, how long have you been with the Public Defender's Office?
Approximately 8 years.
And what do you do for the office?
I meet with our felony clients to do assessment.
Now, pay attention here. This isn't just a random witness. Ms. Morales is what you'd call a heavy hitter in the courtroom. With 27 years in mental health and substance assessment, her testimony carries serious weight. This is the kind of expert the defense brings in to humanize the accused, to paint a picture of why things happened, not just what happened. But will that be enough to sway the judge?
Do you have any background in the work that you do in your licensures?
Yes, I'm like stated, I'm a licensed master social worker with a specialty in mental health and substance use. I'm a licensed drug and alcohol counselor. I have a certification as a trauma professional. I've completed approximately 3,000 hours of clinical supervision with mental health diagnosing and assessing. I've worked in the mental health and substance use field for approximately 27 years.
And have you worked with clients on these type of charges before?
I've provided expert testimony in 17 felony cases.
Has that been here with Bear County?
Yes, ma'am.
In other counties?
No.
Ms. Morales, is this a copy of your resume?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm tendering a copy to the court and to prosecution defense exhibit A copy of Ms. Morales's CV.
Any objections to the court reviewing the CV?
No.
All right, then defense exhibit A will be admitted.
Your Honor, at this time, Due to Ms. Morales' education, licensure, and over 27 years of experience in the fields of mental health, trauma, and substance use, we'd like to offer her as an expert in social work.
All right, any objection? No. All right, you may proceed.
Ms. Morales, are you familiar with the case today?
I am,
How did you get started with it?
but it was deferred to me by as the attorney for the case.
Do you create any logs when you review information?
I do, I prepare notes or take notes, yes, when I'm meeting with an individual.
And so you're familiar with Mr. Alex Avila, correct?
Very, yes.
What did those meetings look like?
We met over the course of the summer, approximately 3 months. I spent about 20 hours with him interviewing, assessing his life history.
Is that your normal routine with felony clients?
Yes, with any client.
And how long are these meetings?
Anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half.
Are they in person? Are they over video?
It's a mixture
Okay.
of video and
So you completed an assessment for Mr. Avila.
I did.
How many times do you recall meeting with Mr. Avila?
Probably about 10 times.
And during those meetings, what do you talk about?
We go over his background, childhood, education, family history, just, starting at the beginning, any trauma that the person may have experienced. Just an overall picture of who the person is.
Okay. Do you remember preparing it for Mr. Avila?
Yes.
I'm showing a copy of the assessment to Ms. Morales, tendering a copy to the court
Any objection?
and also to the stage.
I would object just to it being admitted, because she can ask questions about like the work that she did, but as far as it.
All right, the objection will be sustained.
Ms. Morales, you spoke with Mr. Avila, correct? And what was his background that you?
Very, born and raised in Mexico, parents married, most of his education was from Mexico. Nothing stood out that he reported, any traumatic events as far as any physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. They arrived here in the United States when he was about 16 years old and enrolled in the San Antonio School District.
Did you review any mental health assessments with him?
Did I review any? No,
No, okay.
there were none available.
What about substance use?
We did review his substance use history and he did not meet the criteria for any diagnosis.
I'm gonna move on to different considerations you make when you're meeting with clients. What are the ones that you take into it?
Well, when I'm doing an overall assessment for somebody, it's not just looking at their whole life development, what's happened, how did we get here? But I also look at mental health, anything that may have impacted that, anything that may have impacted normal human development. I also conduct assessments for risk.
Are there different type of factors that you take into consideration?
For any risk assessment, whether it's itself or anyone in the court system, we take a look at factors such as the criminal history, the age of the offense, whether any substance use or mental health were factors that played into how we got today. Their marital status, their education level, their work history, whether they show any disposition to criminal orientation, several factors.
And let's start with the first type, static factors. What do those include?
The static factors are things that do not change in the person's life, which typically is the criminal history, the age of the offense, their whether their parents were married, just things that are kind of black and white.
And what did you find for Mr. Avila?
This is his first criminal offense. That was a big factor that impacted his eventual risk level.
And how old was he at the time of the offense?
He was 17.
And does that have any effect on your evaluation?
Well, it's a big consideration when we're talking about risk and how we got here. That's the purpose of my assessment, is just to give context on what happened. And for Mr. Avila, he was 17 at the time of the offense. And as we know, particularly this court, that 17-year-olds don't exactly have always great decision making. At that age, their brains are still developing their prefrontal cortex, which is.
And this right here is a fascinating legal and psychological crossroad, the concept of adolescent brain development. See, the prefrontal cortex, which handles impulse control and judgment, isn't fully developed until around 25. So when a 17-year-old makes a catastrophic choice, how much of that is criminal intent and how much is biology? That's the million-dollar question courts across the country wrestle with every single day.
Kind of where we have our decision making and our impulse control is not fully developed. And that was one of the factors that I took a look at with Alex.
Does anyone else in his family have any history of criminality that you know of?
No. And I did speak with both parents, and there was no criminal history reported on minors.
What about early behavioral problems?
No, Alex actually was a pretty typical average adolescent. Up until this offense, he was basically going to school, very involved with soccer. There was nothing really outstanding happening in his life prior to something.
You mentioned you reviewed and spoke with him different school records. What did school look like for him based on what you talked about with him and what you reviewed?
Well, they got here when he was about 16. Usually when individuals arrive here when they're younger, it's very much easier to assimilate. They pick up language quicker. Their skills, they're a little bit more like sponges, but the little bit older that you get, it becomes a little more difficult. But in reviewing his records, he actually was an average student without BNC, no disciplinary or attendance issues.
What about the dynamic risk factors? What are those?
So the dynamic risk factors are things that can see in a person's life. That's where we look at mental health, substance use, their peers, their attitudes towards crime, those things that can fluctuate throughout a person's life course.
And what did you find from Mr. Avila?
Well, one of the things that I take a look at is the behavioral history. And because as we get older, there are individuals who can display pro-criminal attitudes, and that's not something that I found with Alex. And spending time with him and talking to his family, looking up at the school records, he does not display antisocial personality traits at all. He generally thinks more of school, pretty okay, and substance use, or mental health that was impacting.
I want to talk more about the impact of him as a young adult. What did you find when looking into the case in terms of the implication of incarceration?
Well, the time of the offense, Alex was 17. Now he is 18. And unfortunately, what the research tells us is that individuals who are in that young adult age group are at much higher risk of victimization in the prison system, especially for first-time offenders that are more at risk for physical and sexual assaults. There was a study 2013, I believe, by the Bureau of Statistics that ranked Texas as one of the highest reporters of violence against individuals between the ages of 18 and 2020.
And so how does that involve Mr. Abbey?
Well, it places him at high risk. Absolutely. He would be facing significant challenges due to his age, putting him at risk with older, more experienced individuals who are in the system. And that can lead to more issues that come up later on in his life.
In your overall expert opinion after meeting with Alex and conducting all of your research, how would you describe to the court Alex overall?
I would place him probably lower end of being a risk to the community. That's one of the factors that I do take a look at. I understand the nature of the offense of the individual. I understand what has happened, but for Alex, he's got a lot of protective factors that help mitigate those risk factors that he may have. He does have a supportive family. He was going to school. He's single. He doesn't have any children. And I think that would place him at the lower end of being a future risk to the community.
Ms. Morales, did you have a chance to review the pre-sentence investigation report?
Again,
Was there anything you disagreed with within the report?
maybe not necessarily disagree. I just have a very different perspective because I was able to spend a significant amount of time with Alex, and that would be, I think, the assessor for the PSI put a pre-contemplation contemplation stage, and that would mean that maybe he's not ready to accept what he's coming up against. I would probably place him in the preparation, which is he has expressed a lot of remorse for what has happened. He fully acknowledges and takes responsibility, and I think those are very important factors. We're looking at whether somebody will return to committing crime.
Is there any difference if a youth takes accountability early on versus not taking any accountability at all?
No, like I said, it makes a huge difference. That's actually one of the factors that we also look at when assessing risk.
No further questions, Your Honor. We pass the witness.
All right, State.
You stated that you're familiar with Mr. Abijah, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, you became familiar with him over with 8 times in months of May and August. Is that fair to say? Yes. Okay. And so in your assessment of him, you stated it's your testimony that you place him off the low risk. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so what metric are you using to determine whether he's a risk to the community?
It would be similar to what probation, their trust system, uses, looking at the static and dynamic factors. And I did list some looking at antisocial attitudes, antisocial peers, personality patterns, history of antisocial behavior, marital factors, in education, employment, pro-social, leisure activities, criminal history, age of offense, family history. It's similar to what probation uses.
Okay. And so regarding the criminal history aspect of it, you stated that this was his first criminal offense. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you're factoring in your assessment, you're aware that he's here for 3 separate aggravated robberies.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so when you're doing your assessment, you just count that as one criminal transaction, or do you factor it in as three separate offenses?
3.
Okay, and so it's still your belief that this involvement, three aggravated robberies, you believe that he's a low risk to complete?
Yes, because I'm not just looking at the offenses. There are other factors that you have to look at in order to make a complete assessment of what their risk is. So although the criminal offenses are a factor, it's not the only thing that we have to take into account.
Okay, and so something else that you take into account is the support that he has surrounding him, is that correct? And that's something that's been unchanged since before and after the offense, correct?
The individuals that are supporting him, no, that has not changed.
Okay, because his parents have been married, correct?
Correct.
He has siblings, correct?
Correct.
They all came to the United States together, correct?
Correct.
They were all living together at the time of this offense, correct?
Correct.
And so how do you factor that into what's gonna change between before when he had this support system and chose to commit the crimes and then now?
Well, one of the things that did change in their family makeup was that when they were living in Mexico, mom was a stay-at-home mom and father was the main provider for the household. And that changed when they came to the United States, where both parents had to work. And when we talk about support, it's love and encouragement, but the way the house was running did significantly change from what Alex had been raised with up until the age of 16.
Okay, so it's your opinion that that factors into his choice to go commit three aggravated robberies?
Based on everything that I know, yes, that is a factor that I also consider.
Okay, and is the mother still currently working?
I do not believe so.
Okay, yeah, but either way, I mean, based on your report, one of Alex's siblings has some health issues, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so mother and possibly father got at work, they were pretty busy taking the sibling to different doctor's appointments, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so there's a lot of time periods possibly that if this court were to grant him probation, that he would be alone and possibly falling back to the wrong crowd, correct?
My understanding and in speaking with the family, that dynamic is going to change. That's why it's a dynamic factor. It's things that can fluctuate up and down. And the family has renewed a commitment to do things differently and sort of evaluate the importance of certain things in their life. And one of the things that they have chosen to do as parents is to become more involved and make the necessary changes to provide a supportive environment for Alex.
Okay, but there's still possibility, right, that he would be by himself while the mother's taking the other child to health appointments, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you stated that there's significant challenges in prison. Okay, one could say that there's also significant challenges in the Bexar County Jail, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but Mr. Oculus seemed to get along fine at the Bexar County Jail, right?
There have been, he has been the victim of some physical assaults in the jail.
They've been reported.
No, and that's really not unusual. If you're telling jail, bad things can happen to you.
But he's made some friends in jail, right? Even an inmate got chose to write a letter on his behalf, correct?
Yes, he has found some peers in the jail.
We possibly.
Just a few clarification and follow-up questions. Ms. Morales, when you're conducting your evaluations and assessments, family is one part of it or all of it?
No, it's one part.
And so when you're sitting down with parents and you're talking with Alex, what are the type of things that you talk about, and what changes do you see?
Well, we discussed the current situation, what their thoughts and feelings are, what they would do different, that's always kind of a difficult topic to talk to parents about. Obviously, no parent wants this for their child. But Alex's parents have done some thinking, evaluating what could they do, what could they have done differently. And I think that based on my conversations with them, that it's kind of it's been their come to Jesus moment, if I may say, realizing that some mistakes were made and the things that they want to do differently.
I know the state asked you a couple of questions about Alex being by himself. Are there any significant risks in any of your assessments when it comes to him maybe being at home with his siblings by himself?
As far as, I'm sorry.
As far as how behaviors or patterns or anything like that when you review the assessments?
Well, obviously, no one is going to be under 24-hour surveillance in their home. So yes, there will be moments that Alex will be by himself or alone with his siblings. And that's where the importance of level of supervision, the engagement with his probation officer or whoever the supervising person is, that's going to be very important. Also, going back to school, doing that full time. He didn't have any disciplinary when he was attending school. And he has really verbalized his understanding of the importance of education if he's to turn things around.
So being on probation would actually help Alex in this instance.
For Alex, yes. There are classes that he would be required to take, reporting requirements, obviously probably UAs that he would have to take. He would be on a more rigid schedule and also being more around, his parents have committed to being more responsive to any issues that they may see.
Further questions, Your Honor?
Any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Defense rests.
I just have one question.
Yes.
Any objections? So are you aware that in the stipulations, it says that at the jail, he was using another inmate's PIN number to make phone calls? Elaborate.
So Alex is kind of caught in between the adult but not really adult stage of thinking.
Mhm.
So it's not unusual that peers, people his age, may have a bigger impact at this point. The good thing is that changing can think, that thinking can change. He can learn new skills. His brain, the little prefrontal cortex and the amygdala will be making those connections as he gets older, which will lessen the impulsivity and give him more emotional regulation and making good decisions.
All right, thank you so much.
Maybe excuse me.
Yes. All right, you have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, defense rests.
So I previously spoken with Ms. Castillo, and there are some letters that I'm not objecting to her offering.
Do you like a copy? Up.
Court will review letters that are typical. Just give me a couple of minutes. Right, one is in Spanish.
We provided
Translation.
the translations, Your Honor. We just kept the originals for
Right, thank you.
records.
I can read Spanish, but I don't want to mess up the interpretation.
We thought ahead.
All right, I appreciate that. Right, the court has reviewed the documents. Is there anything your client wishes to say?
No.
So if you all can, I understand what the witness stated, but if you all can explain to me how he commits one aggravated robbery, pulls a weapon on somebody. Then in the report, he says he's only doing it. And this is from the stipulations. He's saying he's only doing it because somebody forced him to do it, some man he doesn't know. And that he was at Sam Houston High School attending. But my understanding from testimony is that he was homeschooled. And I guess at some point he went to Sam Houston.
Yes, Your Honor. So he transitioned schools because he was finding himself in a position with these kids that he was trying to escape.
All right.
And
So-
so that was part of the reason why he transferred schools to a different location to try to get away from the environment that he was experiencing.
All right. So if somebody can explain to me how he commits one aggravated robbery, and then the next month he commits another and he doesn't internalize that this is the wrong thing to do.
I think the main thing, Your Honor, that was affecting Alex at this time was his environment and this external pressure, threats, and the people he was around at that time. And with him being so young and trying to understand exactly what is the right decision, how do
How old were
I,
the other people who were with him?
they were around the same age, Your Honor. And it's those situations where, you know, you have a group of young kids, Alex, who wasn't the one, you know, holding the gun to the store clerk, but knows, you know, I'm in this tough position. I'm being threatened. At the same time, I know this is wrong. And I want to be clear, Alex from day one has taken accountability for everything.
Right. So if he's saying that he's being threatened, unless the law has changed, maybe it has, I don't, say that I know everything, but if he's committing an offense under duress, then isn't that a defense?
It is, Your Honor. And we talk about these things with clients on how they wish to proceed. And
So he doesn't want a jury trial?
at this time, no, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Avila has been through more than most people since his young life. And there are times when, as a kid, he's trying to make the good decisions with the influence of his parents, moving to a new country, trying to get the health care for his brother. And as we stated to the court, he takes accountability for everything, and he knows exactly where he went wrong. And I think one of the things that spoke the most to me was when I was sitting with Mr. Avila and we were talking about letters from people and family, and he's the one himself that said, I wanted to write something to Judge. And we sat several times where we passed revisions. He's like, I want to make it as grammatically correct as possible. What else? What can I talk about? And that exchange really spoke to I think, the core of who he was and who he is. He's recognized where things have gone wrong, and he's recognized where things can go even worse for him in his life. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people who come before the court learn at different times. And so for me to see that growth in him at such a young age when speaking with him, I think is what spoke the most to both the social worker and myself. Mr. Avila is someone who was caught in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong factors. But he is also someone who takes accountability. He is also someone who is trying to carve out steps for himself and create a plan of success. And to see that for someone his age, I think is pretty remarkable. I told him the options, and we've discussed what could happen. And, you know, he's asking the court for probation, and he would like the chance to tell you and show you exactly what he is capable of and how he can turn his life around. And I wholeheartedly think that that chance should be extended to him. Let him prove to you, and if not, the alternative as well. But at least give him this chance to show you exactly what he has learned, what he wants to do, and how he wants to move forward with his life. Not only to correct the harm that he's caused, but also to become a productive member.
All right, state.
Judge, regarding this offense and the letters that I reviewed during the time of his incarceration, yes, the defendant has come to learn that what he did was wrong, but I mean, he knew it back then. And in his letter that he wrote, he's falling on the sword because he knows that he's coming before this honorable court. I think that in reviewing the stipulations, I think that he's displaying a continued pattern of, you know, with the use of other people's SID numbers. That is against the rules that are in jail. So a pattern of continuing criminal behavior. And then also, I mean, this was not just one aggravated robbery. It was, they hit one store and then are, you know, collecting and appropriating property from that store. And then they go back. And these are people that he met at school, I might add, but, and then they go to another store and then a third store. And so while I understand what counsel is saying, I mean, this was a continued pattern of criminal behavior, violent criminal behavior, where he states that he was aware that these robberies were going to occur and still chose to engage in this criminal conduct, Your Honor.
All right. So here's the thing, and I want you to understand my thought pattern and why I'm doing what I'm doing. I talk to children all the time, and you know what I always tell them? If you're with a group of friends and you all are planning a robbery, you might as well go in the store yourself with a gun, because if somebody else went in the store with a gun, it's like you went in the store with a gun. That's the way Texas law operates.
This is the moment where justice meets reality. The judge isn't just delivering a sentence, she's delivering a lesson. Her tone shifts from authority to mentorship. You can feel the disappointment, the warning, and maybe even a hint of hope. What would you say if you were in her seat right now? Should Alex get a second chance, or must consequences speak louder than remorse?
And my problem with you is I understand you're young, and that's what I'm trying to balance. I'm balancing the fact that you're young. I'm balancing the fact that you didn't have a gun. Because I've had clients before where they're just the lookout. Somebody gets killed, they're charged with murder, they're looking at life in prison. But you were more than just a lookout. You're opening doors for people. And part of the reason why everybody is charged the same is because historically, if you look at the way the law was written, they're thinking that maybe this crime would not have happened but for your participation. Sometimes if somebody says, well, I'll be the driver to this robbery. Well, maybe if that person would have said, no, I'm not driving anybody, then everybody would have said, well, we can't do this. We're not going to do it. But you continued, and it's not just one. So the state is asking for a cap of 10. I'm balancing your age. Hopefully you have learned something. And I'm also balancing the fact that you did not have a weapon. But at the same time, I'm balancing the fact that after everything happened, you all sat around and counted money. Do you even remember what happened to your share of the money, what you used it on?
No lo gastó.
I didn't spend it.
Sometimes people go to a convenience store, they end up killing the clerk, and you know what? They end up with $20. Is was that clerk's life worth more than $20? Most definitely. Is time going to prison worth more than the $20 you had? So I'm going to find you guilty. Does anybody want to speak to the cap?
Your Honor, we would ask for the lowest possible. We know that the court is taking into consideration everything that is happening. Just so Mr. Avila can get what he has planned, done, and he doesn't waste time in the beginning moving and potentially experiencing more negative things that would harm and actually impact him coming back to the system. We understand the court's position and we understand the things the court's taking into consideration. And I think this is one of the opportunities where the law allows for just this, where you get to exercise your discretion.
Judge, I am asking for the time. I did review everything that was prosecutor went over testimony with the witness, which was provided to me, and that was factored into the plea bargain. And I think another aggravating factor is that there were other people that were with this defendant and this co-defendant that were unidentified. And so we would ask for 10 years.
All right, the court is going to find you guilty. In each cause number, the court will sentence you to a $2,000 fine. Time and money to run concurrent. Court will give you credit for any time served. The cases will run concurrently. Court will take in consideration 2025 CR 001801A, 2024 CC 741988. There's an affirmative finding of deadly weapon. The court will request the therapeutic community. Court will sentence you to 7 years in the prison. Did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it? And did you sign it?
Yes.
Because it's a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because this is felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, we can go off the record. Here's the thing. I understand that prison life is extremely hard. If I had all of the money in the world and could build a prison the way it should be built, every inmate would have their own cell. That wouldn't be 4 to a cell, 5 to a cell, or any of this. But I understand that there are bad things that happen at the prison. But here's the thing. Do not waste your time at the prison. There's some free education there. Make sure you do that. If they have a welding program, get in a welding program, and do not become institutionalized, and do not get tattoos all over your body, because people will recognize those as prison tattoos. When you're released from the prison, if you have any problem finding a place for any alcohol issues you have, any mental health issues you have, if I'm still here, you come back here, I'll pick up the phone and find transitional housing for you. All right. Good luck to you. Okay.